Welcome to From Beyond with your host, Glenn Boddice. Join me as we explore spirituality, self-help, and channeling spirit. Hello and welcome to From Beyond with your host, Glenn Boddice, spiritual medium. Thank you for tuning in for another action-packed show. As in this week's episode, I'm joined by my marvelous co-host, Kristina Bloom, and we're going to be discussing the topic of spiritual activity. Also in this week's episode, we have this week's forecast reading, which will hopefully help you navigate your way through the twists and turns of this week ahead. So without further ado, I'd like to say, how are you doing there, Kristina Bloom?
I am great, Glenn. How are you?
I'm doing well, feeling very refreshed to the point where I forget what day it is, what time it is. I'm just in my own little world. I'm loving it. How about
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, we were discussing before we started recording that I have a busy weekend coming up. And so I'm trying to take some time ahead of time just to kick back, relax, enjoy life, before I head on into many miles and multiple shows. And so, yeah, it's good. I'm taking care of myself ahead of time.
Good for you. Yeah, from what we was discussing off air. I don't know how you fit it all in and where you get your energy from.
I get my energy from spirit, just straight up. That's where it comes from spirit. When I am doing spirit's work, I have more energy than I need. It's always there. I'm always ready to go when spirit's coming through me, always. So afterwards, I might crash, but during the events, I'm good. I'm good because spirit's got me. My spirit guides, the universe, it's all got my back. So moving forward, well.
Great perspective to have there as well. And I suppose it takes the intimidation of the task at hand that you have, or shall I say tasks, plural, doing lots this weekend.
Right. A lot of platform mediumship, as you would call it, this weekend. So.
Oh, yes, that's correct, yeah. Kind of gallery work, as you would call it.
Right. Sometimes we do have a little bit of a language, I'm not going to say barrier, but, we juggle back and forth a bit to figure out what we're talking about.
So let's crack on. We're going to be talking, as we've said, spiritual activity. So we have various facets, shall we say, of this topic to cover in this episode. So the first thing I'd like to discuss with you is possession. And I'm talking about spirit possession here.
Right.
Have you ever had any experiences of that or witnessed it happening with other people?
I think so. I know I've seen it with some other people, probably not for a while, but I have seen that happen, particularly during paranormal investigations, when people aren't necessarily taking care of their own energy. They're just more interested in gathering evidence and not really paying attention to their own well-being as far as energy protection. It's kind of interesting. I think you and I both experience possession, but we volunteer for it when we're channeling.
I like that.
Right? Because we're both trance channels. So while we're in a trance and we're channeling, we are literally being possessed by another spirit, but we're giving permission. We know where the guidelines are. And, I don't know about you, but I have a contract with the universe that says that they're going to be nice to me. They're going to take care of me while they're using my body. So, there's that aspect too. Technically, that's possession, I would think.
Yeah, I think you're quite right with saying that. And like your good self there. I set intentions before doing being a vessel, if you like, for spirit. It's not something that I've continually done in different environments to the ones that I'm comfortable with, simply because of any walk-ins potentially take you down this line of full possession where you have no choice,
right?
So to speak. But yeah, I would say possession, it can be quite aggressive when I've seen it. And again, like yourself, I've witnessed it on a paranormal event. Similar conditions to what you've said, where the individual in question was kind of having a joke, showboating, if you will, larking about, and just trying to, take the emphasis off the event and more onto them. And at that point, this is when this walking came in, and it was quite horrific, very aggressive, growling, hissing, spitting, and it took quite a lot of us, because there was a few mediums on that event to actually calm the situation down and to remove that walk-in from that individual.
Wow.
Yeah, it can be very dangerous if you don't know what you're doing.
It can be, absolutely. So when somebody leaves an event and afterwards they're having issues, like life issues that they didn't have before the event, is that attachment or is that possession?
The grey area, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
There is some void in that individual that's gone away from that event, has created space for that, shall we call it, a hitchhiker in spirit to latch on, hag a lift, cadge a lift as we would say it, and follow that person around. And maybe as a source of energy, maybe to get out of that environment, because potentially the individual had a spark of light that was very attractive to that entity, or spirit, shall we say, and they found them very attractive, that they wanted to resist, a bit like a moth to a flame sort of thing. But having said that, it could go the other way. That individual could be so dense with their emotions, so down with their vibration, that there's a vibrational alignment on some level with this entity or spirit. And again, sees that as a food source, a means of existing in this dimension by feeding off of their vibration.
Yeah, that does make sense. And I think anger could probably work the same way. If you have an angry person, is there an angry spirit would naturally be attracted to that.
Yes. Yeah.
And probably make things a whole lot worse as far as expressing anger and possibly causing damage even to other people or properties by possessing that already angry person with more of an angry spirit. So yeah, that can be really dangerous, and not just for the person, but also for the people around them if people don't catch it, don't understand what's happening.
Yeah, exactly. I suppose in a way that spirit or entity is making sure that they're going to get fed. By the energy and the chaos, they're sort of influencing the host, shall we say,
right?
That chaos, so that they can survive in that environment.
Right, and that's when we start calling exorcists.
Yes.
Because, wow, there are just some things, I don't know about you, but there are some things I will not take on by myself. Like that kind of a possession. I would definitely be calling in somebody who's well-versed in doing that.
I would, recommend that you go in as a team, all angles there.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So here's another little angle to that we hadn't talked about, but something that I've noticed when I have been teaching classes, and that is that some people, they don't have an attachment, they leave part of themselves at the location. So they're missing part of themselves. So they're not quite themselves, and people notice the difference and automatically assume, hey, there's an attachment here. But maybe it isn't. Maybe they're just not, maybe just don't have all of their soul with them.
Oh, I like that. I haven't heard of that one before. Well, that's an interesting concept and observation there. And in many respects, it does make a lot of sense.
Right.
We don't know the full story of that person's soul experience. Maybe on some level they had an attachment or an experience in a previous life to that location, maybe where the building is situated, but wasn't always there. It could be obviously connected with the building. They may have had a past life. And on some level, maybe that soul fractal within that individual, that soul wanted to replay out a story that it had experienced in its previous incarnation in order to cut some sort of cords of attachment or some sort of blockage on their expansion of that fragmental part of their soul from evolving.
Right.
It's even bamboozled me, that. Clearly spirit are talking through me.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that I have noticed over the years that I've been doing this is that sometimes people leave parts of themselves there out of curiosity. They're trying to figure something out. They're trying, like that part of them is trying to figure something out that didn't make sense, or that I've even had a couple of examples where a friend of mine went on vacation to the West Coast and was just really enjoying it. She really didn't want to come back, but she did, obviously, because, you know, she's a grown up and she has a life. So she came back and for about 3 weeks, she just wasn't herself because she left part of herself sitting on a beach in California because she was enjoying it so much. And so all of her was not there and present in the moment. And she just felt like she couldn't focus. Like she was just really out of it because part of herself was still sitting on a beach in California. So we leave parts of ourselves all over the place. We don't even think about it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not always traumatic. Sometimes it's just that we were enjoying ourselves. I had a lady we do a paranormal investigation as a class at the end of my first intuitive view session, right? So we went on a paranormal investigation to a place I use a lot for that. And they have a live theater in the basement. And this person was, as a child, a performer. Okay, left her inner child on the stage tap dancing. And for a week, she was just like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I just can't get it together. I don't know what's happening here. And I'm like, part of you's missing. That's what's happening here. You know, so I was able to just go back mentally to the location and say, okay, it's time to go. You need to come home now. I don't want to. Well, I'm sorry you don't want to, but you need to. So, you know, take the child by the hand mentally and brought her back, returned her to her adult self. And she's like, oh, that's better. I'm myself again. But we do that. And we don't even know we do that.
Yeah. Whilst you were saying that, I was getting that song, I Left My Heart in San Francisco.
Yes.
And so it makes complete sense what you're saying. And also, how many times have we all done this where we visit a location, probably like your colleague there, where we come to the conclusion, this feels right. This feels like home.
Mm-hmm.
And so on some level, like you've described, we anchor down part of our soul fractal so that we can feel that joy and that love and that experience.
Right.
But like you say, we need to bring it back, bring that fractal back, you know, present moment.
Yeah. We can post a flag or something. We don't have to leave part of our soul there. You know, we can mentally flag it without leaving parts of ourselves behind.
That's fascinating. I love that. You've experienced that. But we're going to explore now poltergeist activity. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the term poltergeist is a German term meaning noisy ghost.
Yes, that's what I've heard too. Yeah.
That's good.
They do make noise. Have you had, I know that you have quite a few experiences in your home, but have you had a poltergeist, someone who's noisy or constantly knocking on things or making noises?
Yes, I have a few years back, and whilst I was in bed, you know, just winding down to go to sleep of an evening, everybody was in bed in the house. There was just me in my room on my own there. My girls were in their bedroom, and all of a sudden I could hear somebody walking up the landing towards my bedroom door. And I heard this pacing up and down the landing. And there was this hesitancy. I could just feel it in the atmosphere that whatever it was wanted to come into my room, but because my protection system, my spirit team, were not encouraging that or allowing that, it couldn't move any further. So I was just there with my eyes open, thinking, there's somebody walking outside my wall. And my girls would never do that because they're too tired, they're asleep. Mm-hmm. And so mentally, I projected out the thought of, I don't know who you are, but you do not have permission to enter this bedroom. Can you leave us in peace? And once I sent that thought pattern out there, I could hear the footsteps going to the door again and then coming to a halt, and then it stopped. So I've had that experience. I've also had things moving a lot in the home, as I've probably said before, but not to intimidate or frighten, just to let kind of me and my family know that we're not alone, we're not forgotten about, and it's kind of a playful, childlike spirit.
Okay.
That does this, but yeah, I have had that experience, and I would say that one with the footsteps, because it was clearly a male energy, because they were very heavy footsteps with intention.
Mm-hmm.
If you know what I mean. But yeah, what about yourself? Have you encountered anything like that?
I have, actually. We used to live in a 120-year-old farmhouse, kind of out in the country. And there was, what they did was they took a big farmhouse and they broke it up into 3 apartments, right? So we had one of the apartments. And there was a very, very small kitchen. And so we had our soup pots and stuff on top of the refrigerator, just because there was nowhere else to put them, quite frankly. So those were on top of the refrigerator, and 4 of us it was my husband, myself, and the 2 kids were in the living room, which is next to the kitchen. And we were watching a movie, and all of a sudden there was a loud clanging sound, like those soup pots were thrown off the refrigerator. 2 of us heard it, 2 of us did not. Wow. Yeah, so that was kind of interesting, but that house always had all kinds of stuff moving around, and the pots were actually still on top of the refrigerator. It was just the sound of them hitting the floor. There's so many, we had animal spirits we had a cat spirit in that house, which is weird because we didn't have a cat. We had never had a cat while living there, and it would be like if a cat is walking across a table and its tail knocks something off, or you know how cats do where they knock things off of flat surfaces. So there was a lot of that where it sounded like things were hitting the floor, but they didn't. So yeah, that house is very, very haunted. So yeah. Let's talk about kinesis. When things actually move, because I was talking about the sound of things moving that didn't actually move, but actual moving of things. Have you done that? On purpose?
No, I haven't done that personally, but I had a friend, well, he still is my friend, but he's in the world of spirit now. He was a fascinating medium, an amazing healer as well. And he was very connected deeply with spirit, and he was given instructions and techniques from them very openly and freely, because he built that bond up very strongly with them. And anyway, he once told me that he went on a paranormal investigation, and the leader of this investigation was at the time a very well-known medium, had a lot of sort of clickbait airtime, shall we say, a lot of attention, a lot of followers. And when he went on this investigation, the so-called medium was being very disrespectful to spirit in order to get a response and a reaction. And because of this, he wasn't getting any. It was offending the spirits. He wasn't getting any. This was I think it was a group paranormal investigation, like a public event. And so my friend, bless him. He was a character. There was two large tables in that room, like dining tables put together. And he, along with his energy, along with his thought patterns, what he thought would be entertaining is to stop the head medium showboating and to scare the bejesus out of him. So what he did with his with his energy, because he could throw energy balls at people and he'd knock you off your feet with them. It was so powerful as an individual. And so he projected his thoughts and his energy for these double tables to be moved. And as he projected it out there, they did. And everybody jumped out their skin. And so what he told me, this showboating medium changed pitch, was scared stiff, went, he was like, started screaming, went really pale, really white, didn't know what to do under the circumstance, was swearing like a trooper out of shock and responded to it. And my friend, he was just silently giggling to himself.
I can bet.
But yeah, he's a lovely guy. He still comes to visit now and again in spirit. I know he's very busy because he was very gifted when he was down here. So I know that his skills are being, used accordingly. But like I say, he was amazing at creating energy balls like you do in a healing session. And he would, with your permission, obviously, he wouldn't just do it to anybody.
Right.
But then throw this energy ball at you like a snowball. And like I say, the power behind that will knock you back into your seat. It was so powerful.
Wow.
So I wasn't there, but I'm just retelling that story, that event that he went to, and he did that. And from what he said, it kind of calmed things down. It kind of exposed that medium with the clickbait and all of this showboating, and humbled him.
Well, that's good.
Doing that experience and then explaining to people, don't worry, you've got nothing to be fighting about. So he calmed the rest of the group down. So yeah, really nice man. But me personally, I haven't had that encounter. What about yourself? Have you?
Well, with pyrotechnic. So I remote started a fire one time, but it wasn't me. I mean, I was at a Native American, it was like a 4-day camp out kind of a thing. Yeah. And it was kind of drizzly and rainy. And there were 2 people who were trying to get a fire started in the rain. Because when we have these events, you have the sacred fire that burns through the whole thing, right? So they're trying to get the sacred fire started, and it wasn't starting. And they were using the old flint and rock method, of striking it and sparking. It doesn't work real well on wet wood, just in case anyone wants to try that. But I was probably, 20 yards away, maybe. I don't know how it was, 18 meters, something like that. And I was talking to somebody. We were sitting under a tree, so we weren't getting wet. And I was just talking, and all of a sudden my hand just went up to the side and went like this, and the fire started. I was still talking. I didn't even realize what happened. My friend is like, "What did you just do?" I don't know. What did I just do? I wasn't even aware it happened, because Spirit was just working through to get that energy to where it needed to be to start the fire. Wow. So, I've tried it several times since and not been able to do it. So I know it wasn't me.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I get to tell the story. That's my bonus.
It's fantastic. I know I've seen videos of, I think it's spiritual men in India, where they can generate sparks. And I've seen the video of sparks coming out the tips of their fingers at will.
Right.
But this is taking it to another level, actually starting a huge fire.
Right. It was...
Not even realizing.
Yeah, I can't even take responsibility for it. They just used my energy to push it through. So,
that's absolutely amazing.
That was amazing. It's a skill I would actually really like to have, but when my human gets involved, it stops. So
I suppose in many respects, it's with the energy that was created with that. You hear of people that go to an accident or a scene of an accident, and they're the first responder, member of public. And you hear about people saying that they had this superhuman level of strength in order to either lift a car or move something, which poses the question, are we stopping our superpowers from working in this dimension? Are we maybe overshadowed by angels or spirit that are using us as a vessel in order to help in that time of need? There's many questions around that, but I just thought I'd bring that up because I find that fascinating as well. These superpowers that you hear of people using.
Right. I think it's both, actually. I think we do limit ourselves, and I think that we are taught from day one that we are limited.
Yeah, I get what you're saying with that. Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
I've just had the vision of the Harry Potter school in my mind. So maybe
Hogwarts.
if we went to a school like that, we still have these facilities on some.
There is one in England, isn't there? There's a school of energy and magic or something.
Oh, there's quite a few. But,
okay.
It's not in the curriculum. You have to pay privately to go to these things, to my knowledge. So at sort of 4-year-old, you're due to sign up for school. This should be part of the curriculum.
I agree. I agree. And it starts with meditation and focusing energy. So.
Oh, what a prime place to start, as a youngster there. I would like to ask you if you've had any experiences or know of people that have had ancestral visitations. So maybe they're family members or going right down their lineage on their timeline, their family tree there, that have had any encounters with that.
By ancestral, you mean those who are far enough back in our ancestry where we didn't meet them?
Well, it can be as close. It could be relatives that you actually knew when they were living,
Okay.
It could be ancestors, like you've said, that go right back in the family tree, maybe 200 years ago that you had no knowledge of.
Right. Yes, I've had both, actually.
Okay.
My first experiences with getting prophetic dreams, that was my great-grandmother that I was covering up with a sheet and then finding out that someone else in the family had passed away. She was my great-grandmother. She's the one I'm named after, actually. So, yeah. So I've had that with her. Interestingly enough, that once I started being more conscious and more awake with my abilities, I haven't had any real direct contact with her since, which is interesting. But yeah, she was the first one I had contact with. And my grandparents, my son, who is not my ancestor, but my descendant, but he talks to me a lot. We have a lot of conversation with him on the other side. So even though I'm his ancestor, we still have that conversation. But I just remember one time my mom and I were sitting in a cafe, and it was in the town that she lived in at the time, very small town. And the cafe was the only restaurant in town. And so it was always packed, like on Sunday mornings or whatever. And we were there having breakfast. And there was we were in a booth, and then there was the walkway and then a table. It was a 2-person table. And there were people lined up waiting for a table, and they weren't seating anybody because the spirits of my grandparents were sitting there having coffee. But the waiting staff, I don't think they were conscious of that, but they just didn't fill the table until my grandparents were done.
Wow.
So that was kind of interesting. So, yeah, I've had some contacts. What about you?
I have. I think I've mentioned it before. My dad visits on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the time, it's kind of fleeting in and out. I haven't seen him visually for quite a while, but I have seen him, since his passing. And what is interesting, for years now, we have like a portal at the top of our stairs with somebody coming in and out, positive, only loving spirits are unable to do that. That intention has been set. But for a long time now, I notice that when I'm walking past the landing where you see the stairs, fleeting out the corner of my eye, I can see a man standing there, quite a tall, slender man. I can't see any features as such, but I know that he as intrigued in me as I am in him. I've never got a name. I've never got any interaction on a one-to-one level with him. And I think there must be this mutual respect that he leaves me alone, I leave him alone, because normally I would have that inquiring mind to say, but I'm not getting that inclination to do it. But I do feel very comfortable in the presence of that energy. So on some level, I do feel as though it is somebody maybe connected to my ancestry. On which side of the family, I'm unaware of at this moment in time, because we kind of respect each other's space in that
right.
Case. But I've had many visits from my ancestors. I mean, if I can go on, there's one in particular that's quite a funny story. I've set the scene. As I normally do. So basically, I was preparing tea for my daughters. They were a lot younger than they are now. And I was bringing it in on trays because they like to have it on their lap, like most teenagers do. Anyway, as I was bringing this tray in, all of a sudden, halfway through making that journey as I was walking, I felt two physical fingers go up my nostrils. And I felt my nostrils being pulled up.
Oh, my God.
And I was, when you jam something up your nose and it's like, your voice changes. And my girls were like, Dad, you all right? And I was like, no, someone has put fingers up your nose. But nobody did. And anyway, it went. And I was like a little bit shocked. I went white because I physically felt it. And they saw it on my nose moving up.
Right.
And anyway, after that event, dished me out and everything. And I got to think about it. And asked my guide, what was going off there? Who was that? And then I suddenly remembered my uncle, who's in spirit. He once told me a story because he was an ex-military man that because he was quite short in height, he didn't let him be intimidated by people that was taller than him. So if anybody was giving him any lip, he once told me a story that he did this to somebody that was being quite cocky and arrogant, and he literally put both his fingers up his nostrils and dragged him outside so that they could have this altercation. And it took me back to that story. So I instantly thought, I know who that was. It was my uncle. Just having a laugh. Because I had my hands full, I couldn't do anything physically about it.
Right.
So, that's my
yeah. So, okay. So ancestors, and then ancestors leave things behind.
Yeah.
Furniture and whatnot. Have you had any family heirlooms that have attachments to them, that have spiritual attachments to them?
I have. I don't know if you can can't see it. But anyway, I have. And it was a trophy that my dad's dad, my granddad, gained for his service in brass bands, because he was in a particular brass band for over 50 years.
Wow.
And he set the band up and he trained people up, he taught them how to play, and he then organised the trips and the events and things like that. So they all, I think this was prior to his retirement from the band, they all did a gathering and they gave him a trophy that was engraved with his name on, the dates and everything like that. So to cut a long story short, I have that in my possession. And it is made of brass. I think it's like a brass, or really, it looks gold, but I think it's brass. And I don't clean it that often. And so every now and again, when I clean my drums, my cymbals, which use the same cleaning products, I get that gentle nudge and reminder, hey, what about cleaning that cup, that trophy? You want to look after it, and I get that intuition. And to me, that is an attachment to that article, because that is directly connected to my dad's dad. And also when his dad passed away, that cup was passed over to my dad. And then when my dad passed away, it was passed on to me. My dad used to religiously polish that all the time. He really looked after it. And I'm afraid I'm not doing as good a job as my dad. So the energy is still attached to the item there. So,
okay.
What about yourself? Have you got any precious items?
I do. I actually have my grandfather's dresser. Wow. And is pretty interesting. I started restoring it a long time ago, and I've never finished restoring it because I just don't have the skill to do it. But it's in my closet, and I've been using it for years. But every once in a while, when I go into my closet to get something out of the dresser, I smell, and I'm sure, boy, this is a cross-cultural thing, but I smell Old Spice, which is what he always wore. Yep, the Old Spice aftershave. Yeah, every once in a while, I still smell the Old Spice. So I know that he's still there, like near his dresser that he had. I think he got it. He bought it. I'm not sure where, but when he got out of the Navy after World War I. So he's had it for a long time. And his parents were immigrants, so I know they didn't bring it over. So he had to have acquired it. But it's still in great shape after I don't even know how long. But every once in a while I still smell that. And then just yesterday, actually, it's not my possession, but it's somebody else's. For a client, I went and helped them do. They were having difficulty with some troublesome portals in a bedroom, and there was also a piece of furniture that had belonged to the woman's stepmother, who was apparently not a kind person, but she was very attached to it, and she wasn't letting this lady sleep.
Oh, wow.
She would wake her up multiple times a night. So we went and did a cleansing on it. And I'm like, if it persists, and she's like, I am not attached to this dresser. I am happy to let it go if it's going to be a problem for me. So like, okay, but I feel like after we worked on it for a while, we finally got the lady to release and move on. But yeah, she was very attached to that dresser.
Oh, that's good. That must have took some work to do that, to convince that spirit that, they don't need that attachment anymore.
Right. And then the woman saying, this isn't your house. This is my house, and you're not welcome here. A lot of times homeowners or residents don't know, excuse me, that they can do that.
Yeah, it's... That's it, isn't it? Setting those healthy boundaries, establishing them, setting those intentions, creates that vibration of safety within our home, our possessions, the people that reside or visit there as well. And that's something that I'm particularly fond of doing with my location, particularly with the amount of spirit traffic that comes through our home there as well.
Right.
How would you say emotions and attitudes are contagious?
Because everything is energy.
Good answer.
It comes right down to energy, emotions, attitudes, thoughts. The only difference between the air I'm breathing and the desk I'm sitting at is how fast the molecules are moving, right? So everything is energy, and that's why it's contagious. We're energetic beings.
As they say, we're all connected to everything. Even a rock, something inanimate as we would perceive it, like you've just suggested, you break it down to its core essential values, and it's literally energy, isn't it?
It is.
A different vibration.
Right. And I don't know about you, but I know a lot of people who collect rocks and they resonate.
Your Honor, I've got a few myself and crystals.
Yeah, same. But yeah, they all are energy. Everything is energy. And so, that's why people are drawn to crystals and different kinds of stones and different things, because they resonate with the vibration of it.
you ever find, I mean, when I find a stone that I'm attracted to, drawn to, um, I program it. I ask with intention for the usage of that stone or crystal to be used in conjunction with either this activity, project, or ability. And by doing that, it changes the structure, maybe the molecules, as you suggested, the energy, and it works differently. And it connects with your energy, and it works as you're programming it to do so. I find that fascinating.
Yeah, I do too. That is a fascinating concept. And then it also kind of goes the other way too, because, excuse me, there's a sentience to energy, regardless of how slow it's moving, right? So maybe that stone called us.
Yeah, you're quite right, because quite recently I was walking on a beach, a couple of different beaches. Normally I wouldn't do this, and these two items just was drawn to them. I would have never have spotted it any other time of day, and yet they were just standing out from the crowd, and I knew that I had to take them from that environment and then reprogram them. And the energies on them felt very healing, very grounding, very, very balancing. And one particular stone was heart-shaped with a white spark in the middle, and the heart was blue. And I was just literally drawn to that, because how many times do you see a heart-shaped rock? It stood out. So I agree with you. These things do call out on a vibrational level. So let's take this, move it on to what to look out for in terms of spiritual activity. So how do we know that we're experiencing activity energetically in the home that's maybe causing it as a nuisance? What would you suggest?
Boy, that's kind of interesting. I have had people who have called me and said, my normally well-behaved child is acting way out of character. Yelling, screaming, biting, scratching, whatever. Like there's something going on here. So, if you notice it in other people that there's a change like that, especially in children, because they're so susceptible to energy shifts. They're innocent. They don't defend themselves. They don't have any type of awareness that, something feels weird. They just start acting like it because it connects with them. So I think, and animals too, I've had people do the same thing with animals where they call me and go, I don't know what happened to my dog, but I need your help. So there's things like that too that happen. But I think just the way you feel, paying attention to the way you feel, being conscious of where your emotions are at, being conscious of how your body feels. If you walk into a particular place and it's always been fine, but now all of a sudden you just want to go to sleep as soon as you're in there, or you feel angry when you walk into somewhere and you weren't before, and there's no reason that you can attach to it. But, humans do have the ability to create something to be angry about if they feel it, but they don't know why. And so then they'll start thinking of all the things they're angry about and then think that, now it's somebody else's fault, when it's actually just the energy that they walked into.
I like that. Yeah, you covered a lot of ground with that, Kristina. I am inclined to agree with you, obviously. But I find that interesting when you talk about energy in an environment changing. Because as we know, if you walk in someone's home and 10 minutes before you arrive there, the occupants could have been having an argument. And yet when you enter the home, everybody's smiling, everybody's happy. But that vibration of that anger, that frustration in that argument is hanging on in that room there. And like you say, as an instrument, we'll instantly pick that up and we'll feel uncomfortable. We don't know why. But we just have to get out of there as soon as possible. But in terms of, spiritual activity, I would say for everybody to observe themselves, like you said, on a day-to-day basis. How do you feel? What thoughts are in your mind? Have you got any physical aches and pains in your body there all of a sudden? And also observe your home or the premises you happen to be in. Have things moved? Are there differences in terms of, shall we say, temperature changes when there's no windows or doors open? These could potentially be a portal opening up, for example. Also in the home or, the workplace, unusual sounds like we've been describing that just appear from nowhere. And I think you hit the nail on the head, actually, with observing people's behavior. Because when we're overshadowed by a spirit or an entity or energy, 9 times out of 10, our natural self goes away for a slight moment in time, and maybe we display this displeasure, this anger, this frustration. We may have different body language that we're adopting as well. Mm-hmm. And I would say this relates in many respects to what we was talking about earlier regarding possession and walk-ins, that potentially the energy or the spirit is either A, wanting some help, wanting to get your attention, or B, wanting to create an atmosphere of fear and lower based energy so that they can feed off you in that environment. So I would say with all of that, those are the things to look out for.
Right. How you feel. That is our biggest indicator.
Definitely. Yeah. So a to-do list. Let's give people a to-do list. So first of all, I think, like you said, notice how you feel. Subtle changes. Then I will look at people's behavior, observe their actions, maybe.
Yeah.
What would you suggest next?
Well, I know that there is higher activity going on in my house when my phone acts up. Electronics get wonky. Yeah. I've noticed that too, especially computers. They tend to get really weird. TVs too, because TVs are basically computers at this point. So, there's interaction with that too. Electricity is easy to manipulate, basically, for spirits. So if they want to get your attention, all they have to do in this day and age is mess your phone up. You've got my attention. What do you need? Something like that.
Kristina, we are coming to the end of our conversation. So as ever, can you share how people can get in contact with you or book any of your services?
Sure. I have a calendar on my website that you can book through. There's a page that you can fill out to book a service. And my website is KristinaBloom.com. Kristina with a K and Bloom with 2 O's. Just to be clear on that. And Facebook, I'm all over Facebook. So Kristina Bloom, Your Spiritual Advisor, is my group. And Kristina Bloom, Spiritual Advisor, not Your Spiritual Advisor, but Spiritual Advisor is my business page on Facebook.
That is fantastic. Well, Kristina, it's been an absolute pleasure and a deep dive as always. And
always.
I look forward to our next adventures together on another episode.
Me too. Thank you.
In the meantime, have a fabulous weekend, sending lots of positive vibes your way.
Thank you. All right. Well, right back at you. Take care.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Another interesting deep dive with my co-host Kristina Bloom. And as ever, it's always a pleasure to hear her point of views on all these different subject matters. So we're going to move into the next segment of the show, which is this week's forecast reading. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the information. Hello, my name is Glenn Boddice and I'm a spiritual medium, and welcome to this week's energy forecast reading for Monday the 28th of October 2024. Now, those of you that watched me work before will know that I connect with my spirit guides and also link in with the wisdom of the Angel Tarot card. So what I'm about to do is just shuffle the cards and allow a card to come out for this week's energy forecast reading. Very stubborn these cards are today, so maybe there's a message in that. It's telling you just to relax. So here is your card. Okay, so let's tune into this card. First of all, I am feeling that this week it will see you slowing down a lot to enable you to see the contrast in your life and the choices that you need to make that you're avoiding making. I feel part of you is resisting change and therefore is manifesting in your physical body as stiffness, such as I would say aches in the joints, aches and pains in the physical joints, and maybe the muscle areas there as well. This is because you're resisting these changes and not facing responsibility about making life choices. What I feel these life choices represent for you all is, again, making changes in your life. This could be in terms of work and career. Also pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone in order to achieve what your heart truly desires. And there's a link with the finances there. Some of you watching this will maybe have the feeling of feeling unworthy of certain amounts of finances. So this week sees you making changes around that, making choices. Also, I feel in terms of your personal life as well, there's areas within the personal life that you have been avoiding simply because you know that you have got to make a choice and you have got to put your thoughts and emotions into actions rather than sitting on them, rather than thinking about them too much and not moving forward. So again, this takes a lot of bravery, a lot of courage. It could come in the form of communication. Maybe you and a partner, if you are in a relationship, haven't had that degree of communication, that heart to heart, that you need to reestablish the connection that you're in. If you're single for whatever reason, then maybe this is telling you to actually take that leap of faith, have the courage and have that communication with the one that you desire to be with. And you won't be disappointed once you do that. What I'm also sensing this week is I feel that there is, like I say, the predominant word for this forecast reading is change. Change. And you have the key to the door, so to speak, to make these changes come into your fruition, your day-to-day experience. So instead of neglecting this responsibility, this week will see you actually taking that leap of faith in doing so. I also feel that if you can get rest, more sleep, cat naps, whatever, then this week would be a perfect week to do that, because things, although in terms of the year, we see autumn as things slowing down, to moving in towards winter. But in actual fact, in your case, I feel as though things are going to move up a gear in terms of your life, in terms of the energy that you will get in order to make these things come into fruition. I'm hearing the words personal fulfillment as well. So this will give you a lot of satisfaction when you start to see these things come into your daily life. And what I'm talking about, the energy, the choices that you haven't been making, and you've been feeling unworthy of certain opportunities, then this week we'll see you actually getting prepared, allowing yourself to take stock, allowing that energy to build up so that you can know that you are worthy and you are deserving of these changes that are meant for you. I do sense that there will be a lot of blockages in the throat chakra for most of you. Maybe this is a lack of courage or bravery to speak your truth. Again, making these changes this week. So if you notice that, feel it, observe it, but do it anyway. Move beyond those limitations. That is the key word for you for this week also. I'm going to turn over the card and see what the card has to say for you. So at the top of the card, we have the number of 14. So I'd like you to research the angel number of 14, as I feel that will give you additional content and information to add to this reading. Underneath that, it reads the word of balance. So I feel that represents taking stock, like we've already said, in your life, and weighing up the pros and cons, and where you're giving your time and your energy away to, and where you are not, where you're holding yourself back. So it's retaining that balance so that you feel more happy, more joyful, more content in your day-to-day living there. So let's read the inscription at the bottom. It reads, compromise, self-control, and moderation. What I feel as though this represents is it's you compromising with yourself. Maybe part of you is holding yourself back, saying, I can't do that. I haven't got the finances. I'm not that sort of person. I'm not brave enough. I'm a bit shy. The compromise is you actually hearing those inner insecurities, understanding where you're at and what caused those insecurities, and actually saying, yeah, I understand, but actually we're going to do this one step at a time. We're going to move beyond that comfort zone in order to get the progression that we feel, our soul feels that we deserve in our experiences in this incarnation. Also, I feel self-control is that those old patterns being there, you stopping yourself from moving forward. So this would tell you this is your inclination to actually question why you're holding yourself back, and also question why don't you feel you're worthy? And in questioning it, it won't stand any weight. The argument won't stand any weight. So you move beyond your limitations. Moderation, again, is telling you to take some time out, slow down, and allow yourself to process these decisions that you have not been making. Looking around the card, we have this beautiful color. It's like a blue purple around the edge there. To me, let's address purple. Purple is talking about sensitivity. It's talking about honoring your sensitivity. Also, it's talking about you're safe, you're protected by your higher self, by the world of spirit in making these new choices, moving forward on your timeline. You'll feel the exhilaration, the excitement, and the confidence once you have that bravery to move beyond your comfort zones. The blue in the color represents communication, being aware of your emotions, questioning them, and actually moving beyond them this time round. Looking into the artwork itself, we have this beautiful, divine, feminine, angelic being there. So that's talking about trusting your sensitivity. It's talking about listening to it, observing it, and notice that it's there to serve you, to give you the inspiration that you need. Also, the fact that the wings are facing down with the angelic being on this card is telling you to actually take time out to rest, recuperate, recharge your batteries in order to have the energy to propel yourself forward. Now, this angelic being is moving. As you can see, she's got 2 cups and there's a rainbow going between them. I always believe that rainbows are talking about your chakra system. So again, following the card's lead, balancing your energies, where you're giving your time and attention to, and what you're accepting as well. And I feel as though I'm getting, at the end of the rainbow, there is a pot of gold there. So it's talking about perseverance. Keep going, keep questioning, and have that truth, faith that everything's going to work out for you. There's a stream there, so that would be talking about you going with the flow and trusting your sensitivity and emotions to take you in the right direction on your pathway there. Also, notice the inspiration that is coming into you and write them down, because this will help you through the up and coming week ahead. So that's what I picked up for you for this week's energy forecast reading. Thank you for hearting, liking, commenting and sharing. If you've enjoyed this reading and you would like to help and support the work that I do, I have got a buy me a coffee link either above or below this video. And this is a virtual tip jar, so all of your generous donations will be gratefully received and used in accordance with the spiritual work that I do. If you would like to book in with me for any of my services, such as private readings or recorded readings, then please do go over to my website, www.glennboddicespiritualmedium.com, or you can book in with me on Facebook, Glenn Boddice Spiritual Medium. So join me every Monday at 4 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time with my radio show From Beyond with Glenn Boddice, talking about all things spiritual, paranormal and self-help on www.pulsetalkradio.com. Have a fabulous week, everybody. Bye for now.
Sounds like we're all set up for a very interesting week this week, and that we're going to have to face the responsibility and make some definitive choices that will help us navigate our way forward on our timeline within our life. So I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode. I certainly have. It was wonderful to chat there with Kristina Bloom. If you do have any questions you want us to answer on the show, then please contact me at www.glennboddicespiritualmedium.com or email me at glennboddice@live.co.uk. I'll see you next Monday at the same time. Have a fantastic week. God bless.
Thank you for listening to From Beyond. For more information about what products and services Glenn provides, go to Glenn Boddice spiritual medium